What is going on, YouTube? Hope you guys are doing fantastic today. Today, we're going to be talking about just stuff that you guys are curious about, your guys' questions, all stuff relating to Smite. I put a thing in the community tab 2 days ago. There's 46 comments. I don't know exactly how many are pertaining to Smite, but basically, I'm just going to try to answer your guys' questions in a video comparatively to just a post. I can answer in long form and get more points across and emphasize stuff differently. If you guys do like the video, make sure you guys like it. You know, comment that you love it too, so I know that like this is something maybe I even do more than 1 month or once a month if it is something you guys are very, very curious about. When you're in studio, do you ever talk with HiRez staff devs about what would you like to see from the game? Do you feel like they listen to your feedback? Do they take your feedback more seriously than perhaps a Reddit post? Usually the devs aren't in the studio when we're in there, but we'll talk to like the HiRez staff, some like the admins and stuff like that, and just kind of, either joke around about stuff or like, stuff like Vamana where it's like he's just been running rampant for a month, 2 months now. He's just uncounterable. It's just like,
yo, what a different Vamana? Like, you guys never Vamana? Like, stuff like that.
They 100% take our feedback more seriously than Reddit posts and random users. I think the biggest difference, though, is that the casual player base is so massive comparatively to the competitive community. So there's like a 1% versus a 99%. So even if there's something that feels really bad for us, i.e., I think the chests, comeback mechanics, stuff like that, have really ruined the game for the competitive players. I think it's been pretty nice for the casual players. I think they have to for sure take at least like just one of our pro perspectives more than like one Reddit post. Support item synergies. It feels simple in other roles, but I find it hard to figure out what support items I want to build together in which situations. Support is big on countering or exploiting what your comp wants to do with your items. The best way to put it is stuff like if they have like a Baka jungle spectral, if they have a lot of healing pestilence, if they have 4 physicals. I think actually a really good case right now is Lotus Crown versus Lotus Sickle versus Sov. Even on healers, right after this Lotus Sickle nerf, if you're playing against 4 Fizz, a lot of the times, unless you need the cooldown like you're playing Emoja, but like as you saw from this weekend, I built a lot of Sov on Terra, and it's because I think Terra uses the tankiness and the HP 5 and the extra 5 physical protections better than she uses the slightly extra health and then the little bit of magical protections from Lotus Sickle. And if you're playing against 3 or 4 physicals, I think a lot of the time Terra uses the Sov better than Lotus Sickle. I think the same thing could be said for Sylvanas. If you're playing against like the same type of comp, I think he uses Sov a little bit better. But if you're playing against 3 magicals, I think then that's at a point you want to either rotate to Lotus Sickle or you want to build Heartward. Do you want the cooldown a little bit more? Or do you want the MP5 for your teammates? Maybe your mid laner has like Conduit and you think he's going to be running out of mana a little bit, so maybe the Heartward does have like a slight advantage there. But it's also just like, how do you want to play the game? If I'm playing Terra and I am the only person the enemy team can kill, I need to build to keep myself alive. That's when I'll opt for that second item, Spirit's Robe. Do they have a lot of shielding? Maybe I'll go for that second item, Erosion. At that point, maybe they have a lot of shields and I'm their only pick potential. Now I have to weigh the strength versus the weakness of, do I care more about surviving or limiting their shields? It feels simple in other roles, so I think you're just more comfortable in other roles. Technically, I think it is a little bit simpler in other roles because it's just like build power, build health, build either protections. But in support, it's a lot more difficult than that, but it comes down to just what feels better for you. As every match is different, when do you think the best indicators are for when to rotate as a support? I feel great on the first 2 waves in helping my ADC to gain pressure and secure camps, but when I start rotating, I feel like I start to fall behind. I don't think you should ever rotate before you finish your first item unless the game has devolved into a point where you just have to rotate. I think the best time to rotate is after your first back, getting either your Thieves or your Cloak, and then at that point, you can either go make plays in solo or in mid. But first 2 waves, I think it's like first 6 waves, you want to be in duo the entire time because you also want to be there just in case the enemy invades purple buff. So yeah, I would stay there at least until first item. What's your opinion on how the balance team handles the game? I often see very aggressive and decisive takes online that usually lack nuance and never really hold back. Not surprising. Do you lean more towards them doing a poor job, or they will never truly win by pleasing everyone? This is a really good question because this kind of dives into like the difficulty of being a game dev and balancing the game, because truly a game is never really ever balanced. The top end and the bottom end of any game, there's just such a big discrepancy where Arachne is ruining games at low level, and then at the top level, Arachne is not even a character. I think HiRez has done a really good job balancing. I think this year is the first year that I've really been bothered by a lot of their changes. Coming into this year, I didn't think the map was going to be that big of a problem like Genetics did. In reality, I think the map is very, very bad. I think there's very few things to play for. It's super ranked style because grouping is never really a great idea unless you're actually just fighting currently. And I think they've kind of sided more towards the casual side, which has made competitive Smite feel really, really bad. But I think they've done a really good job. I think they can never truly win because there is no pleasing everyone. But I'm happy with what the devs have done, even if I don't love the meta right now. I actually genuinely hate the meta, but It happens. You can't love everything that you've been playing in all the time. Which damage item would you fit in as support, Divine or rather Glide Shield? Well, Glide isn't really a damage item. If I wanted to go damage item, say I'm playing Terra and I need a little bit of damage, I'm going either Deso or Divine 100%. Divine if I need a little bit of anti-heal, Deso if I just want a power item. I think Reaver can be okay also if you want to just proc your ult as quick as possible, but I think Deso's cooldown resets feel better than anything else. Their preferred callouts, positioning from an ADC that you like to see as a support. I just want to know who my ADC is hitting. That's all I care about. Or if they just don't have relics or something like that. That's genuinely all I care about for my ADC. Just who are you hitting and do you have relics? Are there any gods in the game that you would feel would benefit from changing classes? Honestly, I have no idea. There's surely got to be one out there that I'm not thinking of, but just offhand, I can't think of something. What do you think the most important thing is you've learned since making it into the SPL? How to communicate properly in actual game where you're not just overcoming useless stuff and you're actually getting across good information that helps push your team kind of forward. There's a difference between making useful calls and useless calls and just giving information out. Giving information out like, oh, he's rotating mid. There's a ward here. Stuff like that. That's good information. Bad information is like a lot of the time stuff that just fills up comms. Like, we lost that fight really hard. We're getting pounded over in duo lane. We can't get a single purple buff. Like, that's just useless information. Stuff like, we're behind a bit over here, so we might need a little bit of rotations. Maybe we should try playing towards solo because we're kind of getting dicked in duo. Stuff like that. It's just a big difference in what's the important comm. What is a kit playstyle not currently seen on a Smite God that you'd like to see someday? Like a viable hunter supporter or top tier melee ADC? I think a true enchanter support that doesn't rely on healing would be sick. I think Yem throughout her entire lifetime is seen as an enchanter for the most part, but she relies on her healing. Hell, Afro rely on their healing. I think it'd be really cool if there was a support enchanter that relied on utility, whether buffing attack speed, buffing damage, shielding, moving teammates around, and then CCing and stuff like that. I think that would be really cool. What is your opinion on how Ymir plays? I feel like I don't have to read through this much because my opinion on Ymir is the DR changes have made it so Ymir and some of the older gods that have really long animations just feel terrible. If Ymir is freezing somebody that is fully DR'd, he will freeze himself in place longer than he will freeze the enemy in place. And that is messed up. I think he's still got an absolutely busted one. I think his 3, if you're looking for picks and you're the first one to freeze, is really, really OP. I think his ult is still very, very strong. His 2 is still very, very good for laning phase. So I don't think Ymir is terrible, but I think that DR change has made the character feel a lot worse. Lots of new aura ideas. Should they bring back a reworked Void Stone, Void Shield, and power reduction auras? I don't like power reduction, but I think Void Stone and Void Shield should have never been removed. I think they would have been a good answer to the current meta of just building auras in the backline. Unfortunately, these got removed. Auras got busted. Cloak was added, and now we're in this meta where it's just super boring. Scenario, you are ADC, your tier 1 has been taken down, you're 2 levels behind the opposing ADC, and they are holding the wave by their tier 1. What do? You have 2 answers to what they are doing. You walk up to the wave, and you try to farm the wave as much as you can, knowing you're going to die, just trying to get as much farm. That's one answer. Second answer is you rotate and just try to force a fight somewhere else. Even if you're behind, if you get 1 kill in this current season of Smite, you're instantly back into the game. So rotate or just try to farm back camps and die for the waves if you can. I've been playing Kuzumbo and having a hard time working out if I need to always go Blink. On Kuzumbo, you always need Blink. I think he is the worst character in the game, worst support in the game without Blink, and he's entirely reliant on it. What are your biggest tips for Yemoja? Don't spam Omi. In laning phase, you should always have a little bit of leftover Omi so you can always kind of be a threat to the enemy. And if you can, try to always make sure your 1 is in the stun and not the bubble. The bubble is more of just setup for your stun, but if you're looking to make a play, the bubble is rather useless, and the stun is the important part of the kit. Is there ever a reason to skip building Prophetic or Thebes, or are there any reason to go one over the other? I don't think there's ever a reason to skip Prophetic or Thebes unless you are going Binding. I think Binding is still the one item that competes with them. I think they are just still better than Binding, but Binding, I think, offers something outside of Prophetic and Thebes if you're trying to snowball. Prophetic and Thebes are something you have to stack. If you're playing to snowball the game, I think Binding has like that niche there. And is there any reasons to go one over the other? If you can get stacks on Prophetic semi-quickly, Prophetic is a lot better. If you do not think you can get stacks on Prophetic, or if you try to walk up to get a stack, you're going to die, just go Thebes and just play a little bit more passive. There it is, a few of your guys' questions. We made it through a lot of them. There were still some left over, some that I didn't exactly know how to answer. It was more just my opinions on stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did like it, again, please comment, like the video, so I know that I need to do more of these to answer your guys' questions. But I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. See you guys next time. Peace.